So, really, every single manager has something like this they can download from their manager space and for whatever you're using. This data set's actually a free one that I downloaded from Kaggle just so that we have an example to work with. So, just from the beginning, I'm going to do two things. First, you see I've labeled this one birthdays, but I'm going to cut and paste this exact thing, copy, and we're going to make another tab because we're going to do two different employee engagement projects. The first one is going to be employee engagement based on celebrating someone's birthday, acknowledging them on their day. Don't forget to ask on hire if they celebrate their birthday as an important thing. But I do find that most people do, and they really appreciate you remembering too. So this is something that we're going to talk about. And then this one I'm going to name anniversaries because that's also something else. If they've been working for your company for 5 or 10 years, giving them an acknowledgement that they've been working there and you appreciate them for all their hard work can really go a long way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head back to the birthdays, and you can see there's a couple issues here. If I start trying to sort this data, I have the first and last name all smushed up together, and then we also have the date of birth and the date of hire kind of smushed together. And when you're sorting and filtering, you really want all the information that you need in separate columns. So the first thing I'm going to do is take away some of this information that we really don't care about in terms of birthdays. So I'm going to take out everything except for the name, the date of birth, and the employment status. So we'll just get this down to very few things, just the bare minimum. Okay. And now I'm going to take this column and highlight it, and I'm going to separate the first and last name into different columns. So highlight the column, go to data, and then you're going to choose text to columns. It's going to say, is this information delimited, which is basically just a fancy word saying, is there anything that separates these two words? So the first name and the last name here, it's separated by a comma. So yes, we're going to choose this option. And when we get here, we are going to choose comma. And you can see it gives you a little preview of what it's going to look like when they separate it into two columns. So click next because we like the way that looks. And then we're also going to make sure that we choose target locations. So I'm going to need two different columns, one for the last and one for the first name. So let's choose D and E. At the end here, I'm just going to click return. It's going to bring me back, and I'm going to say finish. So you can see here that it's separated out quite neatly, our first and last names. So I'm just going to label them correctly now. And then I'm going to delete this one because it is extra and I don't need it anymore. We're going to do the same exact thing with the date of birth. So I've chosen date of birth. I'm going to go back and choose text to columns. When it asks me about delimiters, I'm going to say yes, because you see we have these little slashes. So that can serve as our delimiter. I'm going to choose there. And you can see here in our example, it looks quite neat. So we're going to say yes. And when we choose our destination, this time we're going to choose 3. This is for the month, the day, and the year. Hit return, and then finish. So now I have the month, day, and year. I'm just going to label these two. I'm just going to say date of birth month, date of birth day, and date of birth. You know what? Let's just delete the date of birth year. We don't really need it, do we? Okay, so a little bit more simple. And then I'm going to delete this because I don't need the date of birth smushed up anymore. And then I'm just going to take this one, I'm going to move it to the back. Because I don't really want that there anymore. Just looks better that way. Okay, so now we'd like to sort, because you still have to go through here and look and count, okay, who's in January? There's one, there's one. And it'd just be way easier to sort this. We're going to go back to the home screen here, and then we're going to choose sort and filter, and I'm going to do a custom sort. So I'm going to make sure that I expand the selection. Then we're going to sort by your date of birth month. Let's add another and do date of birth day, and do last name, and then first name, and click OK. And you can see how that very quickly gives you first and last name, everybody who was born in January, which date they were born, and then also it gives you the employment status. In this scenario, you can also do something that'll be helpful since there's a lot of mixed active, inactive employees on here. Typically, I would keep seasonal employees and some technically inactive or FMLA employees on my list because if they're working away from you for one season, but you're going to see them again at the end of the next season, you want to be sure that you're sending them good wishes and still engaging them and helping them connect to your team. So let's put a filter on this one. So instead of sorting, I'm going to go down here and choose filter. It just puts that little triangle here. And when you click it, it's going to open up a box that's going to let you choose what you want to see. So instead, I'm just going to choose active and I'm going to choose FMLA and I'm kind of take the inactive people out of here for now. And so you can see it took all the inactive employees out. And lucky for us, we are still sorted by our month. So if you are a paper person at this point, you can breathe a sigh of relief. You can print this, and then you can go ahead and highlight this out for your whole year and just add people in as you need to. This could be a really easy way to keep track. If you want to maybe go through and make sure that you're sorting this a little easier month by month and you don't want to use a bunch of paper, then that's fine too. We can go ahead and filter all these different rows here. And so what you can do is you've already said, I just only want the active employees. So let's choose active and FMLA. Okay. And then here, I'm just going to take this one out and I'm just going to choose everybody in January because it's December and that's the only month I'm preparing for. So you can see how this cinches it down really fast. One of the great things that I always suggest and that we had been doing before at my other unit is that we were making sure that we put in some personal information about every employee. So kind of silly stuff. So we would do color, and these are just examples: favorite donut, favorite candy, the coffee order, left-handed or right-handed. And you'll see on the employee engagement that we have a little fun thing there for left-handers. And then also say, are you a dog or a cat person? We've done that too. So just kind of fun things you want to know about your employees. And you don't need to go around and ask everybody and take a bunch of time. Just wait till your next 90-day review. If you're going to start this program, ask everybody that day or make a sheet of paper and send it around, and then you can put this in later on your own time. But if you want to be really efficient with your time, as you're doing the review, just ask these questions and pop it in while you're in the middle of your review. And then as you have person after person coming in, you're filling out the whole form. You can also use this in your 90-day check-in as you're adding new people to your list to go ahead and keep this updated. So now let's go ahead and look over at the anniversary tab that we made. This one has very similar issues, so we're going to go ahead and just clean it up. We don't need all this stuff now. And we don't need this. Okay, so let's go ahead and separate out the names like we did before. I have to choose my destination and finish. And we're just going to relabel these: last name, first name. And then I don't need this. And we're just going to split up the data hire the same way we did the date of births. Text to column. We know that we're using that instead of a comma. Destination, we're going to do month, day, year, return, and finish. Now, actually, I'm going to take and cut these two columns out here and put them on the end. So let's cut and then paste here. And I'll show you why I'm actually keeping the date of hire. So I'm going to label these data hire month, data hire day, and data hire year. And then I'm going to call this one date of hire full date. So I'm inserting a column here. Here, let's clean these up and take these out. Then I'm going to insert a column here that's going to be for total years, or let's call it years of service. Okay. And I know that a lot of people really hate formulas, but this one's going to be kind of easy. And if you just do it exactly like this, it will work. But this is going to calculate every time you open up, it's going to know what today's date is, and it's going to know what cell you're referring to, and it's going to give you how many years of service to the date that you open this file. So we're going to say equals is how you start an equation. INT is going to give you the returned number. We're going to say today, and then we're going to do little brackets that face each other like this. We're going to say minus, and then you're going to use the full date here. So just click in that box, and you see it autofills your cell number there. Close the bracket, divide by 365. So it looks really funny, but if you go ahead and you go back to the home page and you reformat this from a date to a number, you're going to see it's 10.06 years. And I'm going to take away 2 of the zeros because I don't really care about the extra 0.6. So now we're not going to go through and type this on every single line. We're just going to grab that little dot, that square there, and we're just going to pull down. And just keep your button clicked while you're pulling, and you should get all the way down to the bottom. And when you release, Excel is going to autofill that all the way down your sheet, calculating across the rows for every single line. So here you have years of service, your full date, year, month, and you can use this in a couple different ways. So whatever way you want to do this, you can either sort here, just like we did the birthdays, and bring everybody up to January and make yourself a nice list. Or you can come in here and just highlight all these and just make filters for everyone. If you want to filter everyone, then let's say we want everybody in January who has a work anniversary. Okay. And then let's say too, we just want people with major work anniversaries. So we're going to take away the select all. We're just going to choose people with 5 years and 10 years. And we don't have anyone in the selection for 15 because there's nobody in the data set. But typically, if someone did have that value, it would be there. So now, looking through this, we can even make it smaller by taking out the inactive employees. And here you go. So now all we have are the first and last names of people who have January anniversaries that are only 5 or 10 years and that are active employees right now. And this is something additionally dynamically that you can change that makes a big difference. So those kind of skills, I'm going to show you how to apply this to an employee engagement plan, but those kind of skills can be used with everything that you're doing in Excel, and just those few things to learn how to separate a column, how to sort, add filters, those can really help you. I'm going to show you the employee engagement plan and tell you how I use this alongside these spreadsheets. So this is an employee engagement plan, and I will post this so you can use it, change it, do whatever you want. And you can see here in bold, I would have write compliment notes, emails to staff starting month November. So this was to remind me that on the first of every month, I was going to go back to this list to anniversaries. And I was going to check for everybody. In our example here, we're using November. So I'm going to pull up people in November. And also, I kind of just want everybody who has any kind of work anniversary. That way, it's not just a few people. Okay. So here's everybody on my list, and I'm going to make sure that I go through and I write a little something to everybody, whether that's an email or a note or something. And I'm just going to say, thank you for doing this, or I saw you doing this and it was great. I really don't choose what I'm thanking them for flippantly. It's never something that's, hey, we just appreciate you being part of the team, and that's it. I really do look for opportunities. So use something very specific, like I really appreciate you staying late to take a phone call or call this family member, or we got a call from from a patient's family member and they were just raving about you, and I'm just so proud that you're part of our team. So make sure that it's something really actionable, something that you saw that they can do again, something they can, repeat that action, something that you really want to focus on, something that helped the unit, and not just something that is random or general. It just doesn't make that big of an impact. And then for birthdays, every month, at the beginning of the month, I would make sure that I was checking that we had everybody's birthday stuff in order. So let's say if I'm going to be doing, let's go back, we're going to sort again for November. Now I would be looking at this around October 15th. And what I would do is pair this up with a meeting that I had. So a lot of times, especially now in COVID, we all have these WebEx meetings, and you log in, say 10 minutes early or so to make sure that you're just on time. But then inevitably there's a lot of time taken up where people are getting on the WebEx or adjusting their computers and getting started. So on the first, I would lay out as many cards as I needed, and then I would just write out the employee's name. During that WebEx, in the beginning part where everybody's getting ready, you just sit down and start writing out your happy birthday cards, or telling everybody, I'm really glad you're on our team. We appreciate you, something nice. And then as soon as the WebEx starts, you just kind of bundle it up again, you put it away. But in COVID, we've had several WebExes a day. And even now that we're getting out of COVID, more things have transitioned to WebEx groups and home and fewer in-person meetings anyway. So this is something I anticipate you will always have time to do, and you will be able to be more efficient, making sure that you're getting these things done in the little times and spaces that you have. And using this kind of data set and sorting pattern, you're not putting a ton of effort into tracking who you need to talk to or who you need to target that month. And this is a great way to say thank you and appreciate your employees twice a year as an individual. And also just to keep up with it, because if you have a very big department, this can be quite a chore. But we have to remember that even if it might be very difficult to think everybody wants, for their anniversary month, just at least one time, or their birthday, those things only happen one time to a person per year. And those things only happen when you're purposely making an effort. And if we're not using some kind of system like this, there's always people that we're going to miss, not because we want to miss them, but because maybe their schedules don't match up as well with yours, or they're more quiet and you don't see some of the things they're doing because they come in, they get their job done, and they go home. And so instead of just giving that feedback to a few people who really might stand out or be there when you're there, you're really making sure that you definitely touch base with every single person, and this will help you do it. So I hope this helps you throughout your employee engagement planning this year, and also that you learned a couple of skills that you can keep using on and maybe help make your days a little easier with data.